Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Spirit Rebooted Episode 4, The Cultural Wheel, explained in terms of The Matrix. Let's be frank, everybody loves The Matrix. The Matrix series is not only a completely kick-ass movie series, but it's a great way to start out with philosophy because it has so many philosophical metaphors in it. Now, you don't have to let this ruin the thing for you. The Matrix is still always going to be a movie about cyberpunk, kung fu, and bullet time. Nothing is going to take that away. But the creators have deliberately used certain philosophical metaphors and left it up to us to go down the rabbit hole and discover more for ourselves. So let's oblige them. And of course, none of these metaphors are the hard truth about the Matrix. They are just one person's opinions, many of which are based on other theories or have built from them, etc. I am using the Matrix as a metaphor to explain the cultural wheel, which is another metaphor. Now, what is the cultural wheel? Culture is nothing more than an operating system. It is a set of rules that tells you how to behave. What it does is it describes reality for you. And when you grow up in a culture, you automatically imbibe the rules that it has set without questioning them. That is, you become programmed. In order for the cultural wheel to maintain its momentum, it requires that everyone follows the culture. Well, what culture have we created? One where we force people into boxes, giving up their lives in the pursuit of money, while freely destroying the earth and not even noticing it. The culture implants ideas into your head in such a way that you actually think that you thought of them yourself. And so it has you chasing all this material comfort because you think that that's what you want because, well, you thought that you thought of it. It's the ultimate inception and it's been going on for centuries. But we're not doing that movie right now. Anyone who begins to question whether they can bend the rules soon finds out that they can, that they don't have to accept what anyone tells them, and they are soon branded by the wheel as heretics. So, the Matrix, that is, the computer-generated world, is a metaphor for a perception of reality. Hence, I compare the Matrix with the cultural wheel. The Matrix too runs on an operating system and the rules that it lays down. Society runs according to the rules laid down by culture. For example,
either you choose to be at your desk on time from this day forward, or you choose to find yourself another job.
well, Neo is like any one of us. He is fed up with the culture. He can sense that something is wrong, but he doesn't know exactly what it is.
Like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad.
He feels trapped in his daily, shitty life when he'd rather be out there doing whatever. Neo is looking for a teacher. Now, for us, this teacher could be in the form of a book, or a movie, or an experience, or a person, or whatever. For Neo, it takes the form of a man named Morpheus.
At last.
Now, in this scene where Morpheus describes the Matrix, he calls out each aspect of the cultural wheel that we humans in the non-movie world are faced with every day.
The Matrix is everywhere. You can see it when you look out your window or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes.
Each of these things add a set of rules to the operating system that is the culture, and we buy those rules without ever questioning their validity. Neo, who has long since begun to question the validity of this operating system, has found himself led to Morpheus.
That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
The culture is a prison for our mind, because our mind accepts the boundaries put on us by culture, and we can never imagine or think anything beyond that. A culture tells you what you are and that you should behave according to a certain set of expectations. Like a lot of us don't want to sit in an office and work all day, but the culture demands that we do a job, get money, buy things that will fill the emptiness in our life and make us happy, pay taxes, and so on. So, what does Morpheus do next? Well, he offers Neo a psychedelic trip, and the trip is very psychedelic indeed. Suddenly, Neo wakes up and he sees the world for what it is. Now that the Matrix has been stripped away, the cultural wheel has been toppled, for Neo at least, and he sees that everyone is actually asleep. Or you might say that everyone is a robot. This is what the psychedelic trip does. It dissolves boundaries. In the same way that your own eye cannot see itself, you cannot see the culture from within it. Now, suddenly, you have been removed from the culture and you can see it for what it really is, an illusion that has been put there by someone else. Anyone else who is firmly rooted in the system, where they believe they have to do the job, get the money, keep the financial machinery going, these people are still asleep. There is even a reference to Plato's story of the cave, when Neo says,
Why my eyes, sir? You've never used them before.
because he has just had the false reality of the cultural wheel wiped away. A little side note here, it makes me very curious then to wonder what Choi and his buddies are up to in the Matrix. They were clearly into some kind of pantheistic thing, and have done psychedelics.
It's called mescaline. It's the only way to fly.
So in the movie world, were the machines able to reproduce the psychedelic trip? If so, why were they such assholes? Or perhaps Choi is simply there to represent the psychonauts in the movie world. Anyway, coming out of that, well, Neo is in a fix now. He asks Morpheus,
I can't go back, can I?
and Morpheus tells him,
No.
well, this is true. Once you see the cultural wheel for the bullshit that it is, once you realize you don't have to follow what anyone says, that is, once you are awakened, you cannot go back to sleep. You cannot go back to living the way you used to. Hence, you will never look at your job or money or materialism the same way again. You now see that those things that you used to chase
I used to eat that.
only brought you hollow happiness because it wasn't real anyway. And it's hard to live in this new reality. It seems tough. I mean, it was much easier to be ignorant and just be happy.
Ignorance is bliss.
But the world is fucked up, both in the movie and in our non-movie world. Having awakened, we understand what is truly precious: the earth, the animals, and humanity. And these things need to be saved, but it can only be saved when we wake the fuck up. And once you are awakened, it becomes your duty to fight the cultural wheel and try and free more people. And life is still okay. Once you realize that all that other shit is fake, you can enjoy what is real all the more. You can love more deeply, you can enjoy your food way better, you can basically have a ball of a time wherever you are. Don't be like Cypher, that asshole who tried to get out of his duty. Too bad he didn't realize he couldn't go back to sleep, which is to say that if we go back to the old life having been awakened, we are just bullshitting ourselves. This battle of humans versus the machines is symbolic of the age-old battle within ourselves. The battle of ego versus our higher consciousness. The battle of dominator values versus partnership values. And this is represented perfectly by the architect and the oracle.
If I am the father of the Matrix, she would undoubtedly be its mother.
The architect represents ego, or the dominator qualities within us. He is a white, affluent, cold, crisply dressed man. He seeks absolute control and wants to rule the world. Nothing is ever enough for him. His speech is verbose, cold, and calculated.
Ergo, those that refuse the program, while a minority, if unchecked, would constitute an escalating probability of disaster.
What the fuck did he just say? He's the angry father that would sacrifice his children's future for his own sake. Parallels to Mahabharata here. He is a devil within each of us. On the other hand, the oracle is the complete opposite. She represents the higher consciousness, or the qualities of love and partnership. She is a down-to-earth, affectionate woman of ethnicity. She couldn't be more different from the architect. She is the embodiment of a mommy figure. I mean, she bakes cookies. She lives in a very modest apartment and has plans and babysits potential chosen ones. She's the archetype of a loving mother, and she does love humans, which is why she sides with them. She is the one who tells the humans, look, don't listen to that asshole who wants to take over the world. Listen to your heart. You know what's right. Go against that pasty-faced bastard and bring us peace and happiness. That is, turn away from your ego and listen to what your higher consciousness tells you. And she is the one who tells Neo that he has to figure it out for himself.
Being the one is just like being in love. No one can tell you you're in love, you just know it.
She doesn't tell him he's the one, she just tells him what he needs to hear in order for him to figure it out himself.
You know what that means? It's Latin. Means know thyself.
And Morpheus tells him later on,
Neo, sooner or later you're going to realize, just as I did, there's a difference between knowing the path and walking.
you see, you have to figure it out for yourself. Neo wouldn't have understood even if the loving mother figure had told him outright that he was the one. You know what made him understand? He had to die. This represents the ego death that occurs in the trance state and makes you realize that you are part of the whole universe. What it took was for Neo to make a personal act of courage,
I believe I can bring him back.
which made him go back into the Matrix and then die. But not to worry, he came back and kicked some serious ass. No, this does not mean you can stop bullets in our non-movie world. That would be ridiculous. But it does mean that now you know that nothing can hurt you. You still want to live, but now you can live your life in the light of the great mystery, with the utter confidence that your essence, whatever that is, will always be taken care of. But when it comes to telling anyone any of this spiritual crap, it is difficult,
But you don't believe in any of this fate crap.
especially when talking to anyone who has been in the culture for too long, which in our non-movie world means anyone older than 5, probably. What happens is the person becomes accustomed to the culture, comfortable in its ways, and at that point, if they are made to question its validity, it causes a great deal of stress.
The mind has trouble letting go.
They just don't want to listen to any of it, because it is frightening to someone to realize that they are actually completely responsible for themselves. The culture actually gives them the added comfort of being able to shift their responsibility for their own problems and the world's problems. But this is bullshit. When you give them an offer they can't refuse, they would rather take the blue pill and go back to sleep. They may even turn on you or become hostile.
You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it.
But that doesn't mean you should stop, because once you plant the seed in someone's mind, they have to make a choice. Most people don't even know that there is a choice to be made. But once you are aware of something, you inherently have to make a choice on that issue.
Choice. The problem is choice.
But in our non-movie world, you can't take the blue pill and go back to sleep. Once you have a doubt that the cultural wheel is a fallacy, you have to make a choice to accept it or go on living a lie. Speaking of choices, what about the choice Neo was given by the architect? The human race versus his lady love. Well, we find out from the architect that the choice has been made several times before in previous versions of the Matrix. This same situation kept happening again and again. Well, that is pretty much what happens in real life. Entire civilizations rise and fall, and we have to start from scratch again. People across cultures and timelines have had to make certain choices. The human species had to make certain choices, again and again, ever since we took the original red pill in the Garden of Eden. Do we go to war or make peace? Do we pillage nature or do we live in harmony with her? Do we operate with greed and hate or with love? Neo is given choice between saving humanity and saving Trinity. Now, this might seem like an obvious choice to you, but consider this. Suppose some alien came to you and said that he had the technology to make world peace on Earth, but he would have to kill your girlfriend or your parents or your dog. On the other hand, he would spare your significant other, but he would have to destroy all of humanity. Now the choice becomes a lot harder, yes? And yet, this is the choice Neo was faced with. In all previous versions of the Matrix, the One chose humanity and the Matrix was reset and everything began again. Neo was the first chosen one who chose the other choice. Now, you might think that's pretty selfish, but not to Neo. He was willing to sacrifice everything, not so much for himself, but actually for Trinity. And do you know what? He is the only version of the One who defeated the Matrix and ended the war. So what does that mean for you? It means that you don't have to try to save the whole world or try to topple the cultural wheel all by yourself. All you have to do is be good to the ones close to you. Your family, your friends, your immediate community. Just be nice and loving towards them. And if every one of us does that, then the damned cultural wheel will be toppled. And this destructive matrix will be wiped out, and all of humanity will be able to wake up and join hands in harmony. It was love and hope and self sacrifice that saved humanity. And when we thought all was lost and humanity was fucked, suddenly Neo pulls a rabbit out of the hat. That means any one of you can be the chosen one. You are the one who chooses yourself. You are self-selected to see the cultural wheel for what it is. And this is hard. It takes work. The cultural wheel has gained so much momentum over all these centuries.
Billions of people just living out their lives. Oblivious.
And it seems like an unstoppable juggernaut. All those sleeping people. How can you do anything? Well, the first thing to do is to take the red pill, which means to try and realize and understand the truth. You don't have to take psychedelics, but you do have to try to figure out the truth on your own. And when you become the one, you will find that you can make reality whatever you want. I don't mean you can fly and stop bullets, because you'll probably end up like this guy. But you can now begin to perceive things however you want. That means you don't have to take anyone else's bullshit, because you are designing your own perception of what is in front of you. Your life is now in your own control because you realize that you are responsible for it. Well, that was a long one. I really hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. If you like these videos and content, please do the whole like, share, subscribe thing. Anyway, happy Matrix Day everyone, have a blast, and remember,